So I may be a bit old-fashioned, but I firmly believe that short of a life and death situation, there is no circumstance where a man should ever strike a woman. Hello everyone, welcome back to Guardwell Defense. I'm Rob. So by now you have probably heard about former NFL running back Zac Stacy, who just beat the daylights out of his former spouse, and it was caught on her home video camera system. Now, to be honest with you, I haven't watched professional football for many years, and frankly lost all empathy for them when the league started getting involved in social issues. But that aside, tonight I'd like to talk about some of the domestic violence that is far too prevalent in too many societies around the world, and look at some possible options for women who may find themselves in a similar circumstance. So first, let's take a look at this video. It's a little bit hard to watch, but there is some valuable lessons to be learned from it. Let's take a look.
Listen, things are way different now. Stop, please.
You thought that was okay? And they gonna ruin relationships and talking about I'm destructive?
Okay, so that was pretty hard to watch. And I've got to say, I just have no empathy for a man who can strike a woman. Now, this young lady did a couple things that I thought was quite good, actually. Even though she was in the middle of a beating, she was still able to get into a pretty good guard position when she was on the floor. And good for her. That position actually gave her a couple of opportunities to strike. But let's talk about something first. So, with a handgun, just about any idiot stick can apply enough pressure on a trigger to squeeze it to send a bullet down range, and that kinetic force creates the injury that we're after. Doesn't take hardly anything, it takes that much, right? On the other hand, going from just that to having the mindset that you're ready to take a life, and having the muscle memory to be able to load and aim and acquire your target and hit what you're shooting at when you're under duress is a different skill set. I think we can all agree that getting to that second skill set takes some commitment in time. Well, when we're fighting with our hands, now we have to create the damage that the bullet creates. And so that means that if you're going to go for it with your hands, you have to be all in. There are no half measures. If you're going to go for a finger in the eye, you got to imagine putting your hand outside the back of his head. If you're going to go for a neck strike, you want to imagine putting your forearm all the way through the neck, coming out the other side. If you're going to go for the testicles, then you got to imagine crushing them into dust and pulling it off. There are no half measures, because now you don't have the luxury of having that little bullet do the work for you. You've got to do it yourself. Now, in a domestic abuse situation, this becomes even more complicated, obviously, because the person that is abusing you is a person who at one point you had a relationship with and loved. And so that makes it infinitely more complicated. And so if you find yourself in this kind of position, then you have to overcome that. This young lady was very lucky that she was not beaten to death. You could just see the rage from her assailant's demeanor. It could have easily escalated into him beating her to death. So if you're going to go for it, take the time to learn the targets. Hurting another human being doesn't take that much. Understand where the targets are, and then get in the mindset that if you go for it, that's it. There are no half measures, and you're not going to stop until you get serial injury and you're satisfied that that person is no longer a threat to you. Now, it's going to take some adjustment in the mindset. It's going to take some commitment in learning the skills. But, no matter how big and strong a guy is, his throat, his eyes, and his testicles, there's nothing he can do to make those stronger. In the video, we saw the wife get into the guard position. Now, whether that was by accident or she did it on purpose, either way, it's a good position to be in. And what I mean by that is she found herself on her back and she had one leg up as if she could kick, and yet she had the other arm covering her face. So it kind of looked like this. Get in that guard position, and now there's two targets. She can go for the groin target, and she can go for the knee target. And what I really like about this position is that she can switch quickly. Even if I'm being tricky and coming around, she can still stay in that guard position and go for the strikes. So when I talk about the guard position, that's what we're talking about. Okay, we also saw where the antagonist was right up to her when she was on the ground. And I'm going to ask Dion to demonstrate two ways of attacking from this position. One is she's going to rake the eyes, and then she's going to attack the ankle and then the groin. And then the second time we do it, she'll go for the groin, attack the ankle, and go back to the groin. So let's take a look. So if you recall in the video, she was in the guard position, and he was down like this. So if she goes for the eyes, just scrape the eyes. Now he's distracted. She can go for the ankle and then the groin. Alternatively, if she's on the ground, think groin, groin, groin. And then go for the ankle attack. And then groin. So when we talk about that ankle attack, if you can stand up for a minute, please. When we talk about that ankle attack, what we want to do is take the top of the shin bone under the knee and make a T above her ankle. Don't fall in the dog here. And all I'm going to do is apply that pressure and follow it down. Takes a little practice. So these things, you find yourself on the ground, think groin, 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 or you can rake the eyes if they present the target. The hard part here was that this is a person that she knew. And, you know, at one point they had a loving relationship. One can only speculate. So if there's no half measures. If you're going to defend yourself, you got to go full out. Especially with a man who's that big and strong and fast as that guy was. There's no half measures. When you go for it, go all the way. All right, so we saw it in the video at the very end. The husband picked up the wife, and she had about, you know, a half a second, quarter of a second to make a decision, but he just turned around and threw her down like he was, you know, tackling a quarterback on a football field, for God's sake. So we got two options. If the hands are free and he goes to pick her up, Dion's going to put the thumb in my eye, and she's with her left hand, she's holding the back of my head, because anybody, when they get hurt, they want to move away from the injury, and this forces my head to stay in place so she can attack the eye. Once she feels me let go, she can turn around and just step through, and then finish with another attack. Stomp to the ankle bone. All right, we saw what to do when the arms are free. Now, what happens if the arms are pinned? So, if the arms are pinned, remember, she only had a brief time. You just do a bicycle motion to kick the groin, and then something to counter. Serial injury. All right, so the second way, okay, we talked about if the hands are free, you reach behind, one thumb goes in the eye, the other hand grabs the guy's head so it won't go anywhere. And if the hands are free, we talked about using your heels in a bicycle fashion to kick the groin. Another way is to simply, when the hands are pinned, just reach in, grab the groin like there's no tomorrow, because there will be no tomorrow for the person you do that to. All right, so grab the groin. And then show no sympathy in prosecuting your counterattack. All right, so I'm going to paraphrase here from Chris Rank Burr, the creator of Injury Dynamics out in San Diego, California. So when we shoot a gun at somebody, it takes about that much pressure to pull the trigger, squeeze the trigger. That bullet comes out, enters the body, and it does the kinetic damage. That bullet does the work for us. And we can do it at a distance. So if you're fighting with your hands, however, now we have to generate that kinetic force. And we have to close the distance. So when we look at the possibility of doing an attack against someone, like in the video where the husband was beating the wife, the husband can't beat the wife if he's getting injured. And so that's when we want to press the attack. We got to achieve that first injury. And that could be scraping the eyes or hitting the groin. Once you've achieved one of those two injuries, he's not thinking about injuring you anymore. And now you can injure him to your satisfaction. But it has to be all in. There's no magic ninja touch. There's no death point, as Chris would say. So when you go for that groin injury, you got to imagine that you are going through the body. When you're going to scrape the eyes or poke the eyes, you got to go like you're putting your hand through their eye, through the skull and out the back of it. Or you are scraping the most difficult substance on the planet to get that injury. So that's going to take some mental preparation. It's going to take a little bit of time on the mats too. And this is something that I highly suggest you do. Sometimes just a little bit of forethought and planning And visualizing what you would do in a situation can make all the difference. So I hope this young wife finds peace in her life, and other women who are out there suffering the same or similar circumstances. Thank you.